everyone. Artistry and Finesse with you Wednesday night. The Penguins just put a stranglehold on the series. Finesse beating the Rangers 4-2, going up 3-1 in the series. Big win.
Yeah, I think the goal tonight, and obviously to win, was to win the game, but winning the game in the fashion the Pens did is just like established as a matter of fact. The Pens are the better team here. Doesn't mean the Pens are guaranteed to win the series because crazy stuff can happen. But this Rangers team, whether they're tired or just not that good or they got some key guys playing through injuries, they're not going to be able to play with this Pens team if the Pens continue to pay attention to detail like they did tonight.
That's right. The Rangers just look beaten, and you can't really overstate how important it was for the Penguins to respond the way they did after the Rangers tied this game with only 5 defensemen for essentially the whole game. I think Brooks Orpik played 5 minutes. If this game stays close, if it goes to overtime, particularly with the minutes some of these guys have been logging, the Penguins would have been in some trouble, but they just completely took over.
Yeah, they did, and I mean, it was obvious in the Columbus series. It was obvious when he was hurt, and it's been obvious since he came back. But Brian Gibbons has been a difference maker. Like, we were wrong about him. We thought that he wasn't going to be able to hold up in the playoffs. And not only has he sort of held up, I mean, he did get hurt for several games.
Yeah.
But at least when he's in there, he is a huge difference maker, especially on the penalty kill.
There's no question. We said it the other night. Out of everybody on that bottom 6, his 10 to 12 minutes a game, and I think he played 12:35 tonight, is far more impactful than anybody else's.
Look at you. You got the box score open in front of you.
No, I don't even have it open. I just took a quick glance, and, sometimes my memory is just astonishing. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. But his speed on the penalty kill has been a huge factor because, like, it's one thing to have a guy like Tanner Glass who will just get in shooting lanes, but I think what makes a power play uncomfortable, and part of the reason why the Rangers power play looks so uncomfortable, is when you got a guy coming at you as fast as Gibbons is. And, like, your size doesn't matter on the power play at all. Like, on the penalty kill, rather.
On the penalty kill, yeah.
You just want to bother people. You want to make them hurry the puck. You don't want to let them get settled. And that's what Gibbons is doing. He's been fantastic.
Yeah, and he did more tonight. He was on one shift. He must have knocked 3 guys over. It was unbelievable.
He body
slammed a little bowling ball.
It was funny because he was chasing St. Louis behind the net. St. Louis kind of grabs Gibbons' stick out of frustration, and Gibbons did that power bomb move that Crosby did on the guy a couple weeks ago, where he just grabbed him by the neck and just slammed him to the ice. It's fantastic. Yeah. It was like the featherweight championship of the world. Gibbons destroyed him in one punch.
He really asserted himself out there. The best player for the Penguins tonight, I thought, was Malkin. He had maybe his best game of the playoffs.
Not even close. Not even close. He was fantastic. Easily the best player on the ice. Like, if the alien came down and was like, "Who's the best player here?" He would say Malcolm for sure.
He would say, yeah. I mean, you might say that the hat trick game against Columbus was the best game. I think this might have been better. I think he attempted 14 shots.
Yeah, this was better.
Sid was not as crisp as he has been the last couple of days, last couple of games, and Malkin just really carried that line.
Yeah, he did, and it's interesting because I have sort of mixed feelings about teaming up Crosby and Malkin. I think on the positive side, that line is ridiculously good. Like, if you sort of look at it through the lens of if you're a fan of the other team, how unsettled do you feel when Crosby and Malkin and Kunitz come out there for a shift? You feel terrible, right?
Yeah, I would feel quite anxious watching hands settle in, right in front of the goalie, just wide open because everybody's chasing the puck.
Yeah, because Crosby and Malkin
sitting there waiting.
Because Crosby and Malkin are spinning people around behind the net. It's amazing.
Right.
But the downside is that it does take away offense from the second and third line. And I'm not, it's not that Sutter and Jokinen, Jokinen's scoring, which is great. But the guy who sort of is missing to me, or like just kind of getting discounted a little bit, is James Neal. Although he made an amazing play on Mark Stahl that led to the Jokinen goal. But I just feel like he's sort of like the odd man out. And I don't know whether this is a good thing or a bad thing. Like, how far can the Pens get if Neal is sort of just like a, super competent time killer until the Crosby-Malkin unit gets back on the ice?
Well, this isn't a static situation. I completely agree with what you're saying, but I think the matchups will dictate what the Penguins do. I think we're just finding it extraordinarily easy to take advantage of the Rangers right now with that line. Every time that line goes out there, the Rangers are effectively helpless. So I think when that's happening, like, what are you going to do? You roll out that line. And no, you're not getting the most out of Neal, but I think Kunitz makes more sense with Sid and Gino because he's going to do the dirty work in a way that maybe Neal won't.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like the 1 minute you get out of Crosby, Malkin, Kunitz is worth maybe a little bit less on the next couple minutes from the other guys. But to be fair to the other guys, they're playing really well. Like, there's nothing – you can't really expect that much more out of them. I mean, you got a shorthanded goal from Sutter, and you got an even strength goal from Jokin. That's enough secondary – that should be enough secondary scoring in the playoffs.
Yeah. The other thing that's remarkable about this series, aside from the fact, we thought this was going to be a close series. We thought these teams were going to be fairly even, and the Penguins are just outclassing the Rangers right now for whatever reason. But the other thing about it is the Rangers don't, they're not antagonizing the Penguins at all. I mean, I know it's just not the type of team they are as compared to a team like the Flyers, but even when they try the rough stuff, like Stahl took another headshot at Crosby tonight, the Penguins just are going about their business. And I think they deserve just an enormous amount of credit for that.
Yeah, the discipline, the after the whistle discipline has been really, really great. Like, you had Malkin take that offensive zone trip. I mean, you sort of saw it coming like a second before he actually tripped the guy who was getting a little over-aggressive. I don't mind that penalty that much. I mean, he's been pretty – he was so good tonight. Like, you can't really get that jammed up about stuff like that. And Kunitz's penalty was kind of dumb, but, the defensemen are staying out of the box. We're clearing the front of the net. People are staying under control. Chris Letang is under control. And it's just been very good the last 3 games. Very, very good.
I will say that Letang had a couple crazy pinches tonight when the game was close, led to a couple odd man breaks the other way. But the Rangers just don't have the firepower to make it an issue. I think, assuming we get past the Rangers, and we're not assuming, but if we do, when we start taking those offensive zone penalties against Montreal or Boston, or, Letang pinches and the other team goes back the other way, I think it'll cost us quite a bit more heavily than it is against the Rangers. Yeah.
What do you think's going on with the Rangers? Like, why have they been so unimpressive? First 4 games. I mean, even the game 1, like, they were all right, but that was just the kind of a whatever game that they won in overtime. I mean, they haven't shown much of anything. What's going on with them?
I think it's a couple things. I mean, the matchup down the middle really favors the Penguins. I mean, the Rangers are relying on Derek Brassard, Derek Stepan, and Brad Richards down the middle. And those are all fine players, but they're not going to stack up well against the Penguins. There's none of those guys. They don't even have a guy like Couturier who's going to give the Penguins' top centers a hard time.
Right.
In terms of a matchup. I just think we're dominating them physically, and when you see their top defensive pairing of Girardi and McDonough struggling like they obviously are, that just takes the wind completely out of the Rangers' sails. I mean, they got nothing after that.
Yeah, I think it's sort of the Couturier model. What you said a little bit earlier is kind of a very much missing piece of this Rangers squad. They have no trolls. They have no one that really gets under your skin that much. They almost play like
he hasn't been that effective.
And he's not really a good enough player. I mean, for the most part, guys that are like him, they just don't play enough minutes to really like to put forth a grade A trolling in the playoffs. Like they're not out there long enough. Like if you just ignore them a couple times, then that's it. That's their whole game. They don't have like a 17, 18 minute a night guy who's just a pest. I mean, Pouliot's a good player, but he doesn't really bother anybody. I mean,
right.
Richards is like, he's like the embodiment of the Lady Bing. I mean, he doesn't do anything. It's just sort of like they're not a bad team, but they're not that hard to play against, I guess. They don't frustrate you.
That's right. We've said all along that we hope we got the Rangers. If we were going to get anybody, we get the Rangers. I mean, it's really the way this has played out for the Penguins with Columbus and the Rangers. Couldn't be working out any better so far. But, if we advance, whether you get Montreal and PK Subban, the troll of all trolls, who's like the quintessential, really, really talented troll, or you get Boston, who we know all about, with Marchand and Chara and Lucic, that's going to be a much different animal. But, to this point, we're enjoying ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. And Fleury, I thought, made a couple of nice saves tonight. Second goal obviously wasn't very good. Where's your confidence level on him right now?
It's pretty high. Every once in a while, goalies give up bad goals, with few exceptions. You can't really get on Fleury. He's given up one bad goal. Did he give up a bad goal in the first game of the series? I can't remember.
Yeah, you remember the first goal, that wrist shot where Niskanen just let the guy shoot from like 35 feet away, 40 feet.
So 2 goals that he'd like to have back in the 4 games so far. You know what? What are you going to do? He's made a lot of great saves too. And the more important thing is he's bounced back when he's given up soft goals.
That was a bad goal tonight, but even when he let it up, I didn't get the sense that it was like a Fleury bad goal. Where, the kind of bad goal he gives up and it seems like shit's about to spiral out of control.
Right.
It was just a regular bad goal that sometimes goalies give up.
Yeah, he's just more poised, He's more calm in net this year than he has been before. It's not to say he doesn't still have very evident weaknesses, but I'm not worried about him back there. I never felt like we were threatened in the game tonight.
It certainly does help when the defense only gives up 15 shots.
Indeed.
Like you go into that third period with a 2-1 lead and you give up 4 shots on goal.
Yeah. Yeah, the defense has been really good. Tonight especially with, being a man down.
Paul Martin played a half hour tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say enough about that guy. He's one of the best defensemen in the league at this point.
He was in such command out there.
Yeah.
Just total command of the entire ice. Like there were times when it seemed like he was running plays. Like he was like Mateen Cleaves in the Final Four in 2000 from Michigan State. Just a floor general, a leader, puck on his stick, just commanding the men.
He's the commander. He's the prime minister. That's why we call him the prime minister.
Right.
Is anybody still campaigning for Tanner Glass to play?
Oh God, I hope not. I don't, and I think it's got to be so evident to the coaches right now that he's the odd man out.
Yeah, haven't we seen enough? I think we have.
I think we have, and I don't even know if it's. I mean, there's no point in us even like drilling that point home. I think that's settled. I would hope it's settled. At least with Joe Vitale, you get like he's going to go off sides 4 or 5 times a game, right. But at least he's going to win 60% of his draws.
Yeah, he's a guy like late in the third period. If you're a defenseman, you don't want to. You're going to be annoyed that he's coming on the forecheck. Because he's like a fast and dogged player.
Yeah. A lot was made right before the game about Orpik coming back in the lineup over Bob.
Yeah.
Turned out to be somewhat of a moot point. I mean, I don't know if Orpik's injury tonight had anything to do with whatever it was that kept him out the last couple games? Could have been totally unrelated and random.
Apparently, it was.
It was.
That's what I read. It looked tonight like he had a knee.
Are you saying it was related or it wasn't related?
Unrelated. It was completely random what happened tonight. It looked like a knee, and I don't remember who said it on Twitter. One of the beat writers or something said that he was kept out earlier because of something else. But, that's all speculative. Who the hell knows?
Yeah. I wasn't that upset about the move. I think there's no point in worrying too much about that kind of stuff. It's that's the kind of move that shouldn't really make a difference. I mean, Bortuzzo was fine when he played, but I thought Orpik's been relatively fine these playoffs as well. So
yeah, I agree with that. I think that Scuderi, when he has had breakdowns, they've been so glaring. He deserves the criticism that he's gotten, I think. But he was fine tonight, and I agree. Generally, those three are, for the most part, interchangeable. Although, maybe the next series when we could use a little bit more of a physical presence, I would say that I would strongly prefer Bob over Scuderi.
Yeah, I might as well, but it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I just don't know why.
I can tell you why.
We're not the coach.
I'll tell you why. It's the penalty kill.
Yeah.
Scuderi is a good penalty killer, and Dan Bylsma spent like 9 years in the NHL as a penalty killer. So that's going to be something he emphasizes.
Yeah, okay, if you want the other team to just have the puck all the time, as we've discussed, and shoot it at Rob Scuderi's shins, then that's fine. I just feel like I would rather have somebody that can actually separate someone from the puck and get it out of the zone. But that's just me. I realize reasonable minds can disagree about this.
I just don't think it's that big of a difference.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, did you see have you been watching Boston and Montreal? And what's your take on what's happening there? It seems like the Habs are way inside Boston's head.
Yeah, they are. And it's interesting. Like, I've been reading a little bit from, like, the Boston perspective to kind of see how they evaluate their own team. Because, like, we look at Boston, we're like, wow, that team's incredible. I don't see any weaknesses.
Right.
Their big thing is young defensemen. They just like zero in on all the mistakes their young defensemen make.
Right.
Which the Pens never put them in a position to make any mistakes last year.
Right.
Apparently, the Seidenberg injury and having Mazzaros as the replacement has been a huge downgrade.
Right.
I don't think anyone's going to shed any tears for them over that.
No.
But it's been a really great series. I'm enjoying it very much.
You got to hand it to Michael Therrien. He's doing a great job. And how good is PK Subban?
Yeah, he's great. I mean, he's going to make – he needs to look at the Letang contract, which is like 7.25. Is that right?
Yeah.
And say, like, look, I should get 8.25.
He should get Drew Doughty money. There's no question about it.
He should get Drew Doughty money, but he should look at a guy like Eric Stahl and be like, look, Eric Stahl makes over $8 million. I'm better than him.
Yeah, but the comparables are going to be other defensemen. Doesn't Drew Doughty make 8, or am I imagining?
He might. But, I don't as good as he is, I don't know that's a great thing for your team. It all sort of depends on where the cap goes.
Right.
That's a lot of money for one defenseman, even if he's really, really good.
Yeah, tell us about it. We know.
Yeah, I mean, look, because you can't argue that, like, Crosby and Malkin are each worth their contracts, but you could make a reasonable argument that it's not the right thing to have both of those big numbers on the same team,
Yeah, of course.
So, like, a guy can be worth $8 million, but it still doesn't make sense to sign him to $8 million.
Yeah, we've been complaining all season long until relatively recently about that very phenomenon that, we have these high-end players and you're left with the bottom six of total scrubs. who are barely NHL caliber.
And by relatively recently, you mean game one of this series.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think that's going to go 7. I wouldn't count Boston out until the actual final buzzer, though. They just have a knack for coming back. They come in waves. Like when they're pressing, they are as threatening as a team as there is in the league when they get going in the offensive zone.
Yeah, I mean, I respect Montreal a lot. I think they're a good team. I'm not sure that we'd be a favorite if we match up against them in the conference finals, but I make no bones about the fact that I'm rooting hard for them. I don't want anything to do with Boston.
I agree. You gotta say, like, if the Pens are fortunate enough to get out of this series, you certainly would want Montreal. Just because you know what you're getting in Boston and you don't like it.
Yeah.
You want nothing to do with it.
I'm going on Friday night to the game. Good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing. I think the Pens need to put the Rangers away on Friday night. The Rangers are defeated right now. Like, they look like shit. Their body language looks like shit. They have nothing inspiring about them. Lundqvist is like breaking his stick over the net after every goal. The crowd their own crowd is turned on them. Like, if ever there was a game 5 where you just need to put the other team out of its misery, it's this one. And because really, like, the difference between these two teams over the first game, I mean, I guess you could give the edge in game 1 to the Rangers. It was fairly even. I mean, it's basically been like a sweep so far, and I just think the Pens can't give the Rangers any life. You got to bury them in game 5.
Well, that's why I'm asking if it's a good thing or a bad thing that I go. The question is, will my presence somehow give the Rangers life? Is it conceivable that me going to the game will give the Rangers the spark they need to get back into the series?
You know, I actually expect that the Consol crowd is going to be at its best all season in game 5. I don't know if you know, when the story of the season is written, like, if there ever be a way to find out the turning point, but it does feel like at some point over the last 3 games, we sort of, the mindset has like become a little bit more optimistic, right? Like, the team looks, I mean, I know it's only 3 games, but the team just looks better and a little bit different over the last 3 games than it has in a while. And I think you'll sort of, that sense will be palpable in the arena on Friday.
I think you're right. I think the most encouraging thing to me, it definitely looks like the Penguins are peaking at the right time, but even more than that, they look like a team in a way that they didn't last postseason. They look like, you know, a bunch of all-stars thrown together in the playoffs last year, but they actually look like they're playing with a purpose. They have an identity. The lines each have an identity in a way that we haven't seen in a long time.
It's exciting. It's very exciting. It sort of has shifted from like waiting for something bad to happen to now being like, wait, could something really good actually happen here?
Listen, we're just along for the ride. We said it before. It's time to this is what we've worked so hard for all season. You know?
That's true.
It's time for us to just enjoy it. I just looked up and I see that there's women's wrestling on the TV.
I'm seeing that. I don't know. NBC Sports really relies on the NHL. Let's say that much. I can't remember ever watching this channel if it wasn't the NHL.
What is even happening right now? All right, well...
wait, who do you think's going to win, though, this match? The yellow or the gray suit?
Ooh. Well, you know, the gray looks like she's dominating.
She's
right
a little
now,
bit bigger, the one in the gray.
Yeah, blue is feisty, though. And let us just tell you, this isn't like professional women's wrestling. It's like real amateur wrestling.
It's like Olympic-style wrestling.
Olympic style, right? Greco-Roman.
Yeah, this isn't like the female Undertaker out there. Or like China.
Miss Elizabeth has not made an appearance, right?
China isn't out there.
So we'll try to podcast on Friday after the game. I'll call you or something.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot.
All right. Well, exciting times. This is fun.
Much better after a win.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Until next time. GG.